Good morning, everyone. Will Dupree here in Austin at KXAN. We are streaming live right now as Air Force One has arrived in Midland. President Trump is arriving here in Texas to not only speak at an oil rig and to some energy leaders here in the state, but also to have a fundraiser for his re-election campaign. That's happening in Odessa first, so he'll get off the plane here in just a few moments and head to that fundraiser in Odessa, and then he's going to an oil rig that is run by Double Eagle Energy, and the president is expected to deliver remarks there to members of the energy industry there at that oil rig. Now, if you want to take a look really quickly, the cameraman has zoomed in there on the door where President Trump will deplane here momentarily. There at the airport in Midland are supporters of the president's as well as other officials here in the state, including the former U.S. Energy Secretary Rick Perry, Governor Greg Abbott, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, and members of the Texas congressional delegation. If you're just joining us, I'm Will Dupree, broadcasting here from Austin. We're bringing you this live picture from the Midland Airport where Air Force One has just touched down, carrying President Trump, obviously. He is going to get off the plane there, head to a campaign fundraiser for his re-election. He also will tour an oil rig run by Double Eagle Energy there, and he will speak to members of the energy industry here in the state gathered at that particular location. We do have a crew there on scene. This live signal is coming to us from our sister station, KIMD Big 2 News, there in West Texas. And our reporters, Wes Rappaport and Maggie Glenn, are there, and they'll be covering that speech that the president will give to members of the energy industry. As you can see, the stairs are approaching the plane right now, and President Trump will disembark here shortly. Now, ahead of the president's visit, we did receive a statement from former Vice President Joe Biden, who is obviously going to face President Trump in the November election. The Biden campaign released this particular statement, and this is only part of it, but Joe Biden did criticize Trump for coming to Texas while the state is dealing with a surge in COVID-19 cases, not only in terms of new cases, but deaths and hospitalizations as well. As you can see, some other state leaders are now gathering there. Governor Greg Abbott wearing his mask, and along with him is former Energy Secretary Rick Perry, Lieutenant Governor, and the Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton. So, as I was mentioning, the Biden campaign sent out this statement. In it, Joe Biden says, quote, "Mr. President, now isn't the time for politicking or photo ops. Texans need a president with the experience and the vision to fight for families no matter how many catastrophes reach our shores." The rest of his statement criticized the president, again, for coming to Texas amid the state dealing with Hurricane Hannah damage and a surge in COVID-19 cases. There again is President Trump arriving. Let's take a watch and listen as he gets off Air Force One. President Trump, as you can see, has gotten off Air Force One now, and he is joined by other elected leaders. You may notice Senator Ted Cruz is standing just a few people behind him, and he is wearing a mask with the flag of Texas on it. And you may have noticed a lot of the people were touching elbows, and there appears to be Rick Perry in the background there on the left, shaking hands and hugging one of the officials who had gotten off the plane. A number of the leaders that were on there that were joining President Trump were touching elbows, obviously observing some sort of social distancing, while other people there gathered are not following those kinds of guidelines at this time. But President Trump has not shaken hands with anybody and is not wearing a mask at this time. But many of the people there gathered on the ground are doing so. Just in a few moments, President Trump will get in a vehicle there, and he has been given a football helmet at this time. He will leave in that vehicle, that armored vehicle, and go to a campaign fundraiser, and then will tour an oil rig in Midland and speak to members of the oil and gas industry here in Texas. We do know that Representative Louis Gohmert was supposed to ride on Air Force One from Washington down to Texas to accompany President Trump on this trip, but he tested positive for COVID-19. One of our sister stations here in Texas is doing an interview with Representative Gohmert to talk about that diagnosis, and it's being reported that the congressman received that positive test diagnosis during a pre-screening before he was supposed to board Air Force One this morning. Again, let's take a look as President Trump is waving to supporters gathered there at the Midland Airport.